Hey folks, Colin here from Something's Recording, and welcome back to part 3 of recording a song with the PreSonus AudioBox USB. Okay, today we're going to be working on recording stereo keyboard. Okay, since we have two inputs available to us on the AudioBox USB, we're going to record stereo keyboard. Okay, so we're going to use a left signal and a right signal off of my digital Yamaha keyboard over here. Okay, so we're going to do piano, and I think we'll add a little bit of organ as well before we move on to recording guitars. Okay, so you're going to plug your left signal into channel 1 and your right signal into channel 2. Okay, and when you get your level set, you can actually set 1 and 2 at the same input level. Okay, since we're recording a stereo instrument, you can set them at the same input level. Okay, so what we will do is we will set them a little bit below center. Okay, you can do like 3, 4, 5 notches below center on both inputs, and we will record a little bit of keyboard, and then we'll come back and see where our level's sitting. Okay, it's better again to record a little bit too quiet than it is to record too loud, because if it's too loud and you clip, you can't save it. If you record too quiet, it's digital, you can pull it up and your signal will be fine. Okay, so we will jump in here, we will record a little bit of keyboard, and then we will check our level and get it set, and we will track the entire track. Okay, so let's create a stereo keyboard track. Okay, so we're going to record piano, and we'll do an organ track as well. So we'll create 2. They will be pink because keyboards are pink for me. So here's our 2 piano tracks. And in our last video, it looks like we forgot to pack folder our bass. So we will do that. So now we've got our drums and we've got our bass set. Okay, so we will do, I didn't want to do that. We will do piano and organ. Okay, so we will start with our piano here. Again, I have changed my AudioBox USB to correspond with my stereo keys inputs. Okay, so usually on my Studio Live it is 17 and 18. I have changed channels 1 and 2 on my AudioBox inputs to match or line up with 17 and 18 on my Studio Live. Okay, so I don't have to delete all my inputs and change them all to 1 and 2. Okay, so we have 17 and 18 for stereo keys. I have my AudioBox set a couple notches below middle on the 1 and 2 inputs, and we will record a little bit of piano. We don't need to hear the track though, and we will come back and check the level. Okay, so my keyboard is over here, so I'm going to dip out of camera for a moment, and we will record a little bit of piano. Okay. Okay, so our level looks a little hot there, okay? Because I was playing probably not quite as hard as I would if I was actually tracking with the track in my ears. Okay, so I'm going to pull it down a couple more notches on each input. We can undo that because we don't need that one. And we should be good to go this time, okay? So I'm going to leave 1 bar at the beginning here. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our piano is going to start. Okay, so we got our 4-bar piano intro, and then everything comes in. Okay, so we can turn off our loop, and we should be good to go with everything here. Okay, you should be able to hear the piano as I track it. I think I've pulled it up to send to my video recording software as well as into the computer. Okay, so let's do a pass here on the piano now that we have our level set. Just making sure our click's working here. I could probably pull up my volume a little bit more in my headphones. Let's see how that sounds. So that's not bad. I could use a little bit more. So we'll pull up my headphone volume a little bit more. I could probably use more keyboard. So we'll pull up the keyboard a little bit. And we'll try it one more time. Okay, that sounded pretty good to me. We can stop our recording here. Let's see how our level looks now. Yep, that looks pretty good. We've got our louder section at a good solid level. So that intro is pretty rough. So I'm gonna nuke the intro. I was not very on the click in the intro, but once the drums and everything came in, it was all right. So what we will do is grab the section going into the chorus, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. And put that as our intro. I will just have to add a little fade, and that should come out okay. Let me grab my headphones, and we can get our editing going here. Let's pull this forward so it actually looks like a introduction. So we could probably pull this to a 64th note, fade. Snap to grid on. Pull this over. Still a little wonky, huh? Good enough for now. Let's get the fade going into the verse. That actually sounded okay. So I actually like the first bar of the verse a little bit better. So we're going to take that second bar as well. We can switch back to the beginning here and nuke our first two bars. And we'll cut that guy in. That intro note just sounded a little wonky, as you probably heard. Now I can zoom in a little bit more. We'll switch back to that 64th note. That's better. Good. So now we can set our level with our drums and bass, and then we can get our organ going in, I'm pretty sure. Turn my headphones back down. we're going to throw an EQ on our keyboard here, our piano, because full range instruments like this can very quickly dwarf your drum sound. That sounds about good there. Let's creep back up and see where we're sitting. Right there sounds okay to me for now. So what we're going to do is, before we track our organ, is again, we're going to send our 2 keyboard tracks to a bus. We will call it keys. And then you can also do the same thing here and pack the folder. So we have our instruments kept in folders. It's just organizational stuff here. So now let's do our organ part. So we can start it there and fade it in, actually. So bar before, we can crank our headphones back up here for tracking purposes. The organ level should be fine because we're using the same keyboard. We won't have to redo our level. Okay. And we should be good here. We should be good to go. Here we go. We should be all set that time. Looking a little quiet here still. Okay, so if you don't have a keyboard to plug in stereo to your AudioBox USB, you can always MIDI into your computer, excuse me, or MIDI into the back of the audio box. Okay, so on the back of your AudioBox USB, you have your outputs for your mains, as well as your headphones, and then you have a MIDI in and a MIDI out. These are MIDI DIN cables. So if your keyboard has that capability, you can MIDI in if you want to use any of the virtual instruments inside the DAW of your choice. Otherwise, you can always just program the parts too by hand. Okay? So moving on here, let's bounce. Let's save this keyboard part as an edit in case we ever need to get back to it before we bounce it to the front. And it's just a habit of mine is to Make sure the edits don't bounce as well in the layer. So that's good. This guy should be good at the level we changed it to. And we can bounce that as well. So we'll just check it on the chorus because that is the more prominent section. So your organ level, you really want this to be something you feel. So it's subtler in the verse. And again, we can pull over our EQ and make sure it's not interfering too much with our low end. Yep, sound okay. So the level of this organ will change as we add guitars in the next part of this series, because the more instruments we add, the more space that will be absorbed, and the more we'll have to pull these kind of pad elements up to be heard and to fill out the track, okay? So that should be about it for part 3 here, recording stereo instruments, stereo keyboards with your AudioBox USB. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in part 4.